Hello, fellow researchers. I'm Dr. Naresh Rakha, Professor of Preventive Veterinary Medicine. I'm doctorate in immunology from the University of Liverpool, England, and postdoctoral fellow with FAO and also at the University of Hokkaido, Japan. I have served as university professor and dean postgraduate studies. This video has 7 chapters, and each chapter deals with each section of a research article. The first chapter is how to write your first research article. I realized that graduate students feel a lot of fear and trepidation, and at the same time there is excitement about writing the research paper, and especially the first one. I believe that writing a scientific research paper, though difficult, but is a skill which can be learned and mastered with right guidance and practice. I'm sharing some general tips to write a great research paper, particularly the first draft. So we'll be discussing the important general guidelines first. And number 1 is know your topic thoroughly. Read extensively anything and everything about the topic of your investigation and bookmark the most relevant information. Read whenever you find time, while experimenting, while researching, or waiting for the results to come. While reading articles and books, make note of the references or web links, as this will make writing quite easy and you will be able to refer back to these resources quickly. Review and renew your literature search just prior to attempting the first draft. At a point of time when you know the topic by heart, when you can discuss it and talk about it without even needing to look at the original articles, you will find that writing the paper would come naturally to you. By now, you are able to form important discussion points just from what you have read, all because you understood what you are going to write. That is the right time to start writing, and the time is just now. Determine what your audience is, who are going to be the primary readers, whether students or researchers or academics. Anyway, reviewers are always the primary and the most important audience. Then also determine what kind of paper it is. Is it full research article, short note, or review article? I mean, what is the intended purpose of this paper? Secondly, considering the journal's impact factor and financials, enlist at least 2 to 4 journals to which you intend to submit your paper to. Don't decide on just one journal. Always review the manuscript requirements for the journal of interest, and there is no point of writing a paper that does not follow the manuscript requirements. It will probably be returned unreviewed with some nasty note from the editor. Please note that writing the initial draft is the creative part of the job. What you need to do is to resist the temptation to correct and edit as you write your first draft. Your job now is to produce a complete first draft and not the perfect first draft. Editing should be the second stage of the work. Writing the first draft is the critical thinking and analytical part of the job. Editing at this point of time, before you complete the first draft, is going to be the waste of time. So let's discuss the standard operating procedure for writing the first research article. Most important and the first step is just get started. Don't procrastinate. Number 2, do not write the introduction first. It is the hardest part of the paper to write. It could be waste of time to write the introduction at the very first. The third step is begin with the easier part of the task, that is experimental section followed by results and discussion section. This is the easiest part, and once you start working on it, it will give you sense of progress and that will diminish the procrastination. Step number 4, for the results section, since you have the data, so writing this section is also easy. Create the outline by making a list of all your tables and figures. Put them in order of presentation as they may appear in the results and discussion. The logical sequence of data tables and figures is your paper's outline. Outline is now the basic framework divided into several subsections. You need to work upon one data table and one figure at a time. If you have to stop, pause after completing the subsection you are working upon. You can easily pick up the writing at a later date. Step number 5. While writing the first draft, take notes indicating what references might be needed and would be about. But don't stop to collect the references and adjust them in a sequence manner at that time because it can interrupt the entire flow of the work. Then comes the really hard work, critical editing, where you make sure that the English is coherent and the science is correct. Step number 6, write the conclusion in very crisp and pithy language, preferably in a numbered format. Step number 7 is, for writing the abstract, try to bring in all important points included, that materials and methods, results and discussions and conclusions in the briefest possible way while maintaining the clarity of expression and ease of understanding for the reader. Step number 8, do acknowledge each and everyone who has contributed but is not a co-author of your research paper. Step number 9, here comes the stage of writing the introduction. Two most important things to address is, why was the study done? What is its purpose? So, collect the relevant essential background information, put them together in the introduction. You should give the reader sufficient background to understand what you did. Step number 10, final step will be to collect the references, put them in order or sequence as per the pattern of target journal. You may like to add an automatic reference generator while working onto the document. There are software packages that allow the writer to add citation on the go and fix references as citations are added, removed, and are edited. Step number 11, at the end, decide on the title, which should truly reflect the content of the research article and should be attractive but short. Step number 12, now rearrange all the sections in the commonly used sequence or as per the format of the journal, and they generally are, first of all, title, then authors, abstract, introduction, experimental design, material and methods, results, discussion, conclusion, acknowledgement, and bibliography. Now you have got the job done. At this stage, I also recommend that you leave your paper for 2 to 3 days and then print it and review your own paper like a critical reviewer. Okay, now time for the 3 most important bonus tips. Number 1, in first go, write very simple sentences with focus on information you want to transmit to the reader. At the time of revision, you can bring in your communication skills in language, make good sentences and more meaningful with true expression of thoughts. Our scientific arguments in the discussion section should be correct and logical. Emotions, intuitions, and projections should always be avoided. Bonus tip number 2, while writing research paper, we have to focus on our critical skills of analyzing, interpreting, and correlating the findings. And here is the most important tip. Reviewers are the most important audience and gatekeepers of the journal who regulate what will go in that journal. Their concerns must be attended to. Get all their concerns on the first draft. Address the best of your knowledge and expression. It is better to get their nod on first revision itself to ensure that your paper gets finally published. The second chapter is on how to write the materials and methods section of a research article. Materials and methods section should comprehensively mention the materials, procedures, and equipments used to conduct the experiment. So, when any researcher wants to conduct similar study, he or she can replicate these experiments. This section should provide the reader and reviewer enough information to judge whether the study is valid and reproducible. Read and follow the author's instructions of the target journal. For example, the heading of the section, Materials and Methods, may need to be changed to Materials or Patients and the Method. To help the readers follow the study design or methodology better, visual elements like the schematic diagram, flow chart, and tables may be presented in the method section. Cite the literature sources that help you to select the particular method or methods. Present all the experiments in a logical and chronological order of study. Match the order of specific methods to the order of the results that were achieved using these methods. Divide the section into subheadings. You may write the name or specific objective of each experiment as a subheading. Provide all details meticulously that you considered while designing the study or collecting the data, because the smallest variation in these steps may affect the results and interpretation of their significance. Carefully describe the materials and equipment used in testing and processing used in the experiment. If the study is based on a survey or psychological assessment, mention the questionnaire, scoring method, and validation of scales. Clearly mention the control variables, independent variables, and dependent variables. Also mention extraneous variables, if any, which might influence the results of the study. Describe the study participants. For example, number 1, animal, the source from where animals were received, number of animals used, the age, the sex, their initial conditions, and how they were housed and cared for should be mentioned. If the study is on human subjects, information about number of subjects, geographical location, age, sex, and medical history, etc. should be given. Declare that written consent was provided by each subject of the study. In case in your study hospital records were used, the subject's basic health information and vital statistics at the beginning of the study should be mentioned. Describe how the chosen group was divided into subgroups and their characteristics, including the control. Also describe any specific equipment used, such as housing needs and feed, usually for animal studies. The approval of the institutional ethics committee, whether it is human or animals, is required if the study involves animals or human subjects. Clearly mention authorization or permissions obtained from institutional ethics committee. Give a declaration that all human or animal subjects were treated humanly as per the statutory guidelines. Describe the procedures, study design, necessary preparation, for example, tissue samples, drugs, etc., and instruments used. Mention duration and protocol of the experiments, procedure, and treatments. Inclusion or exclusion criteria which you have adopted should be described for the inclusion and exclusion of the participants, how they were determined, and how many subjects were eliminated from your study. Describe how the data was measured and which statistical tests were performed. Specific software, if used, must be cited. Focus more on how the method was used to meet the objective and less on mechanics. However, any obstacles faced and how they were overcome should be described. And at the end, 2 important instructions. Do not describe the well-known methods. Instead, cite the specific experiment and mention that the referred process was followed. However, if you have modified it to meet the specific aim of your study, describe the modification and the reasons. While mentioning the details of the methods you chose, do not discuss the pros and cons of other methods. The reason why you did not use a particular method or how your chosen method is superior to others should go into the discussion section and should not be mentioned in this materials and methods section. Chapter 3 is on how to write the results section of a research article. This video has 6 parts. Number 1, prerequisites. Number 2, general consideration. Number 3, elements of research section. Number 4, style of writing. Number 5, common errors to be avoided. And number 6, bonus tips. To begin with, number 1, what are the prerequisites of writing the results? Once you have completed all the planned experiments or surveys, immediate priority is to organize the entire volume of data, and here comes the need of statistical tools to check the significance of variations and to summarize the data by converting replicate values to the mean. Several statistical analysis algorithms are available online. You need to select the most appropriate and specific algorithm suitable for your set of data, download, and then apply. The second prerequisite is the analyzed data is to be presented in tabular and graphic form for the ease of understanding. The tables and graphs should be self-explanatory. The title, legend, or the footnotes to the tables and graphs should be drafted meticulously so that the reader understands what you want to explain. The third prerequisite is check the suitability of table, graph, or figure for a particular set of data. Take care that one set of data is not presented in multiple ways. For example, first in a table, and then in graphic form. While analyzing and interpreting the data, you find some missing links or gaps. You may need to conduct one or more experiments. Ensure that your hypothesis or point of proof is adequately supported by experimental results. The general consideration for writing the results section. Provide an overall description of the experiments and present the data that was obtained in a logical order. Depending on the discipline, target journal, and the nature of the study, the structure of the article can differ. Results are usually written as a separate chapter or in combination with discussion as per the requirement of the target journal. Check the guidelines of your target journal and read articles that it has published on similar topics to your study. This will help you in learning acceptable style of the journal. Then catalog your findings in relation to the journal requirements and design figures and tables to organize your data accordingly. The results should be mentioned in the order of figures and tables. The results section should simply mention the findings without any bias or interpretation. For example, in your analysis, you may have noticed a significant correlation between two variables never described before by anyone. We get tempted to discuss the unique finding then and there in the results section. It is okay to explain this in the results section. However, speculation about the reasons for this correlation should go in the discussion section of your research article. So coming to the elements of research section, a very short introductory context that repeats the research question and helps to understand your results should be written first. Secondly, very brief mention about the data collection and study participants should be mentioned. For example, in case of clinical research, it is common to include a first table summarizing the demographic, clinical, and other relevant characteristics of the study participants. Then write a systematic description of the main findings in a logical order. Follow the order of the method section, highlighting the most relevant results first. Other important observations and information generated while conducting experiments should be analyzed and presented. Please don't mention any single result. Visual elements such as figures, charts, maps, tables, etc. that summarize and illustrate the findings should be cited in the text and numbered in order. Figures and table should be able to stand on its own without the text, which means that the legend should include enough information to understand the non-textual elements. Edit and revise your draft and seek additional inputs from your colleagues or experts. Now comes the style of writing. Number one, connect different sections and paragraphs with a smooth transition from one to another paragraph. The result should be written in the past tense. Avoid writing in the passive voice. The use of the active voice makes the statement easy to understand. The passive voice weakens the power of language and increases the number of words needed to say the same thing. Use verbal phrases instead of long nouns. For example, instead of writing as shown in table 1, there was a significant increase in gene expression. You can say, as shown in table 1, gene expression increased significantly. Get a second and even third opinion. Writing a scientific article is not an individual work. Ask your co-authors to check the results section and to add their comments and suggestions. Opinion of a third professional may help you to identify misinterpretations or errors. Ask a colleague that is not directly involved in the work to review your results and then try to evaluate what your colleague did or did not understand. If needed, seek additional help from a qualified expert. So coming to the common errors which needs to be avoided. Number one, don't include raw results and repetitive data. You do not need to present every single number and calculation. Do not include redundant information. If data are contained in the tables or figures, do not repeat them in the description. You can highlight the most relevant results in the discussion. Do not repeat background information or methods or introductory information. If you feel that more background information is necessary to present a result, insert that information in the introduction section. Do not ignore negative results or results that don't support the conclusion. In addition to posing potential ethical concerns on your work, reviewers will not like like it. You need to mention all relevant findings even if they failed to support your predictions or hypothesis. Negative results are useful and will guide future studies on the topic. Provide your interpretation for negative results in the discussion section. Do not discuss or interpret the results. Leave that for the discussion. Unless your target journal allows, preparing one section combining results and discussion together. Examples of error include using an excessive number of figures and tables. Hard to read figures with many sub-figures or enormous tables may confuse the reader, so one needs to avoid cryptic abbreviations, inadequate use of colors, X's, scales, symbols, etc. Do not include tables and figures that are not mentioned in the body text of your results section. So here comes the bonus tips. Number 1, prepare self-standing tables, graphs, figures, etc., which should be prepared with the aim of making all findings very easy to understand for the readers and not to impress the reader. Chapter 4 is on how to write the discussion section of a research article. I have covered the entire information under 4 most important points, and these are: number 1, the guiding principle; number 2, content of discussion section; number 3, organization and structure of the discussion section; and number 4, recommendations for further research. Allow me to present and discuss these points one by one. So number 1 point, the guiding principle, and these are: be concise and make your points very clearly. Use the present verb tense for established facts and past verb tense for specific works and the references, and preferably use subheadings to organize the interpretation into themes. And the second point, content of discussion section. These 4 things must be part of the discussion section, like explanation of results, references to the previous research, interpretations, and your hypothesis. Number 1 is explanation of results. You have to explain findings that were profound or unexpected. Mention whether or not the results were expected and provide explanation thereof. Write down the meaning of unusual patterns you have observed in the results. Secondly, references to previous research. Cite the relevant and important studies reported in your field. Compare your results with the findings from other studies and use other studies to support your claim. You may like to explain what might be logical explanation of your results being different from others' observations. Interpretations. Write down what these findings mean and propose recommendations based on this interpretation. And the 4th content is hypothesis. Write a general claim or possible conclusion which may become basis of the future studies. Important point number 3 is organization and structure of the discussion section. Begin by briefly restating the research problem you were investigating and answer all the research questions highlighting the problem that you posed in the introduction section of your research article. Number 2, describe the patterns, principles, and relationships shown by each major finding and place them in proper perspective. Follow a logical stream of thoughts. The proper sequence should be as first state the answer, then the relevant results, and then cite the work of others. Refer to a figure or table to help enhance the interpretation of the data. The order of interpreting each major finding should be in the same order as they were described in your results section. A good discussion section includes analysis of any unexpected findings. This paragraph should begin with a description of the unexpected findings, followed by a brief interpretation as to why you believe it appeared and, if necessary, its possible significance in relation to the overall study. If more than one unexpected finding emerged during the study, describe each of them in the order they appeared during the experimentation. Number 4, before concluding the discussion, identify the potential limitations and weaknesses. Comment on their relative importance in relation to your overall interpretation of the results, and if necessary, Note how they may affect the validity of the findings. Avoid using an apologetic tone, however, be honest and self-critical. The discussion section should end with a concise summary of the principal implications of the findings. Give a brief explanation about why you believe the findings and conclusions of your study are important. This can be followed by any recommendations for further research. And most important point number 4, recommendations for further research can be included in either the discussion or conclusion of your paper, but do not repeat your recommendation in the both sections of research article. At the same time, do not be repetitive and do not express in more words than are needed. Avoid using the jargon language. And here are a few of the special notes. Number 1, besides literature review section, the majority of references to sources are written in the discussion section. A few historical references may be helpful for perspective, but most of the references should be relatively recent and included to aid in the interpretation of your results and are linked to similar studies. If a study that you cited disagrees with your findings, do not ignore it. Clearly explain why the study's findings differ from yours. And the second special note is, do not waste entire sentences restating the results. Should you need to remind the reader of the findings to be discussed, use bridge sentences that relate the results to the interpretation. An example would be, significant reduction in pathogen load due to UV germicidal irradiation suggests that UVGI technology can be used in several ways in controlling the infectious diseases. So this sentence contains both results and its interpretation, and also the future perspective. Chapter 5 is on using reference managers to write bibliography. In this lesson, you will learn about the reference managers, which can make writing bibliography very easy. I will be dealing with 3 questions, and those are: number 1, what is the reference manager? Number 2, what are the advantages of using a reference manager while writing the research article? And number 3, which reference manager is good for you? Coming to the first question, what is reference manager? Actually, reference managers are software packages that can help you to build your own libraries which you can use to organize, sort, and quote the references. Reference managers are either plugged in directly to the word processing software or to the web browsers. They automatically create bibliographies formatted to the target journal style as per their specific requirements. The second question is, what are the advantages of reference managers? The first important advantage is that reference managers automatically search relevant citations from the databases. Thereby, you create your own digital library of citations which you can later use to insert references in your manuscript. They actually insert coded information of the citation which refers back to your saved library. Depending on the specifications of the target journal's guidelines, these references may require the use of brackets, parentheses, superscripted text, bracketed superscripted text, or commas to separate the author's name and date of publication, etc., etc. All these formatting differences can be automatically adjusted by setting up the specification in the reference managers. The second advantage is of creating bibliographies. Traditionally, authors prefer to insert citations once they have finished drafting the paper. They keep a large bibliography in a separate file. In this method, chances are that notes or marks made in the text may remain there itself when submitting article to the journal editor. This error can make your work appear careless work. Using a reference manager to manage the order in which citations appear in this bibliography can greatly reduce the amount of time you spend drafting an article. The third advantage of using the reference manager is collecting resources automatically from online databases. The most important use of reference managers is their ability to pull citations automatically from the internet search engines and store in your reference library. Large search engines such as Google Scholar even have gadgets that can be added to the results of peer-reviewed literature to quickly and accurately download references directly into your local library. These searches can be made using an identifier, and a complete file gets downloaded automatically. And the advantage number 4, changing the reference system for the resubmission. If the research article is rejected from one journal, you should rewrite or reorganize manuscript for a new journal following different style of formatting of citations and bibliography. Reference managers can change formatting automatically once requirement of the target journal are specified. There are many formatting styles. Changing from one of these systems to another can be time confusing, especially if you have to add a new reference to a numbered alphabetical bibliography. Additionally, the risk of incorrectly formatting a citation or bibliography could mean a poor review or rejection from a journal. Reference managers, however, will reduce your time significantly by automatically making the necessary changes in bibliography order and numbering format. Now, dealing with the third question, that is, which reference manager is good for you? There are several reference management tools available. The first choice should be the one which your institute or university is using. This will give you free access and opportunity to collaborate with fellow colleagues. If you need to have one for yourself, you can select one of the several products based on the features of ease of use, stability, price, and available support. Here in this lesson, I will mention the 7 most popular reference managers. In the next video, you can see practical demonstration of the most popular reference manager. Briefly, I will talk about these reference managers one by one. Number 1 is EndNote. EndNote is very popular reference manager. It allows the collection of references from online resources and PDFs. References from bibliographic databases can be imported into the EndNote libraries. Even full text can be imported. EndNote provides plugin for Microsoft Word and OpenOffice. EndNote does not have collaborative features. However, EndNote Web provides the functionality for collaboration with other users. You can give group members access to read and write the references, and you can import references from their libraries. EndNote also integrates with other bibliographic tools. The second very popular reference manager is Mendeley. It is an excellent reference manager with features such as networking, collaborating, and managing PDF files. It offers both a desktop and a web version with synchronized bibliographic information, allowing access from several computers and collaboration with other users. PDF files can be imported into Mendeley desktop, and metadata such as authors, title, and journal are automatically extracted. It is possible to do a full text survey, highlight text in PDF, and add sticky notes. The web version will recommend papers to you based on your profile and the content in their libraries. You can create both private and public groups and share papers and annotations. Mendeley is free to use but costs a monthly fee if the number of documents in Mendeley web or number of private group exceeds a certain limit. The third popular reference manager is Zotero. Zotero can work with Firefox, Chrome, or Safari. It also includes a hosted version in order to synchronize references across devices and shares them in private or public groups. You can collect and to organize a variety of web sources such as the citations, full text, web pages, images, and audio files directly in the browser. Citations from Zotero can be integrated into Microsoft Word and OpenOffice. Next popular reference manager, RefWorks. RefWorks is a commercial web-based reference manager. The right-hand side utility enables the integration of references into Microsoft Word, where in-text citations and reference lists can be formatted into various styles. RefWorks makes it easy to collaborate with others as all references are stored in the web-based version. The right-hand side utility can also work offline but is not the right tool for researchers with intermittent or poor internet quality. Number 5, the reference manager called Papers. Papers is a commercial reference management software available for Mac, iPad, and PC. Its main strength is its excellent handling of PDF documents, including metadata extraction, and its polished user interface, whereas the collaborative features are less developed than in some of the other products. Papers uses the citation style, language, and provides a word processor plugin. So another popular reference manager is JabRef. JabRef is an open source bibliography reference manager popular with LaTeX users. It runs on Java and is thus compatible with Windows, Linux, and Mac. The strength of JabRef is that references can be formatted directly in LaTeX, thus providing access and control over a wide range of citation styles. JabRef provides direct search and downloads from PubMed and IEEE Explore. There are plugins for word processing program and also other Java-based plugins which expand the journal functionality. Another reference manager which is very popular is CiteYouLike. It is a free online reference manager and social bookmarking tool. References are primarily entered via a bookmarklet that captures bibliographic content in web pages. New entries are public by default and are added to the common library, but entries can be also made private. Users can assign tags to entries which make it easier to organize and search through the content. The social networking features are the strength of CiteYouLike. Users can create profiles, connect with other researchers, and create and join groups where they can collaborate on library content. Chapter 6 is on how to write the introduction section of a research article. So the first question comes to our mind is that when to write the introduction. As in our previous video, we have mentioned that writing introduction is the most difficult part of the research article. Though this is the first section of research article after the title and abstract, but many experts are of the opinion that we should write experimental design, results, discussions, and conclusions section of the article first and then start attempting to write the introduction. Once we have written all other sections, now we know all important things which needs to go into the introduction section. Why I think that introduction is so important? In fact, good introduction provides a solid foundation to the article and compels the readers and reviewers to continue reading that article. At the same time, introduction shows the background of the study and its objective. Therefore, it is very important to show readers and reviewers why the research topic is worth reading and why the paper deserves their attention. So we have to explain in the introduction section why this work is important. So write how the research topic is worthy of the study. Do not just simply say subject X is important. It doesn't make much sense. Instead, tell why the topic is important. Instead of writing the development of new materials is important for the automotive industry, you should and you can write, for example, the development of new materials is necessary for the automotive industry to produce stronger, lighter vehicles which will improve safety and fuel economy. So the first step is check the journal requirements. Many journals have specific requirements for the introduction in their guidelines for the authors. There might be requirement of, for example, a maximum word count or a specific content such as a hypothesis statement, or they might ask for summary of your main results in the introduction section itself. So when we start writing, the first paragraph should write a couple of sentences about the broad research area and then mention the specific research area of your article. This way, the article will draw the attention of a larger group of readers and audiences and not only the very specific narrow field interested researchers. So the step number 3 will be write aims and importance. The second paragraph should mention what you wanted to achieve and why the reader should be interested in finding out whether you achieved it or not. Instead of simply saying that the topic is important, show why the topic is important. The basic structure can be as simple as we aim to do X, which is important because it will lead to Y. The step number 4 will be writing the review of literature. In thesis, the review of literature is a specific and separate chapter. However, in the research article, the review of literature is to be cited in the introduction part. But we have to be very careful and be very specific in citing the references. On any point made in an introduction, limit the citation of 1 to 2 references, which are most relevant, recent, and published in high-indexed peer-reviewed journals. For example, when we write a sentence like pathogens are effectively killed by ultraviolet germicidal irradiation, references 4 to 10, too many references are cited at once in a single statement. Though these 7 references may provide a good overview of the topic, but doesn't provide enough context and explanation for these studies. If all references you feel are worth citing and must be included, then we should discuss these in greater specificity. For example, ultraviolet germicidal irradiation has been found to effectively kill all tested bacteria, reference 4 and 5, fungi, reference 6 and 7, and inactivate all viruses tested so far, reference 8 and 9, including coronaviruses, reference 10. The next step will be mention your hypothesis. Mention a hypothesis for which this study is seeking confirmation or validation or verification. For example, in this study, we hypothesize that X is related to Y and we should use method A to test this hypothesis. For research in formal sciences or exploratory research, you could consider stating a research question instead. The question can be like, in this study, we examine the following research question, that is X related to Y? At the same time, you should note that the research question doesn't always have to be stated in the interrogative form with a question mark. Instead, you can put the question into a declarative sentence. For example, you can write, in this study, we investigate whether X is related to Y. The hypothesis and research questions are effective because they help give shape to your research article. While writing the introduction, we have to keep in mind that this should be kept short. Important tips is try to avoid the long introductions. A good target length of that introduction is around 500 words. But at the same time, we need to check the journal's guidelines how much content they want in the introduction section. The past issues of that particular journal can provide the clear guidance that how much is the size of introduction in the commonly accepted research articles. So in the last paragraph, give a section by section overview of your paper if it is appropriate for your field. You can write briefly what you have written in other sections. In fact, this para is like an index of what will follow in your research article. Here is a bonus tip for all of you. Present the topic and get the reader interested. Provide a strong and good background to the research topic. Summarize the existing research. Position your own approach, how you did the experiment and what you found. Detail your specific research problems. Finally, give an overview of the paper structure. Chapter 7 is on how to write the abstract section of a research article. Hello, fellow researchers. In this session, you will learn how to write abstract of a research article. Writing an abstract is like writing everything written in all other sections of the research article within the word limits prescribed by the target journal. It looks easy, but it's very skillful activity. I'm going to address and answer 2 basic issues like number 1, when to write the abstract, and another is how to take out abstract information objectively from other sections of your research article. Towards the end of this session, I will also discuss some common mistakes which creep in inadvertently while we are writing the abstract. Are you ready to take the important notes and tips? Let's begin. While writing abstract, keep in mind 3 important considerations. Number 1, the abstract is the first section that is read by the journal editors when deciding whether to send your manuscript for review or reject it. Number 2, once published, the abstract is the first section to be read. In many cases, it is the only section that is available to the reader. Most of the literature databases index only abstracts, and the access to full text article is often restricted. And number 3, a well-worded, concise abstract is the best tool to communicate your research to the scientific community. So coming to the first question, when to write the abstract? When we read scientific research articles, first we read the abstract. So what do you think? Should we write abstract first? You're right. This section comes in the end when writing a research article. The right sequence of writing the research article is to begin with material methods, followed by results, discussion, and introduction, including the literature review, and then comes the writing of abstract section. When you have written all other sections, it is easy to condense all the aspects of your work into a concise summary and the abstract. To begin with, go through your paper and highlight its most important sentences in each section of introduction, methods, results, discussion, and conclusions. Then use these sentences as an outline to write the abstract. At this point, it is also important to check your target journal's abstract guidelines. For example, some journals require a structured abstract with discrete section, and most journals impose a strict word count limit in the abstract section. So let's check which information from the introduction section should be included in the abstract. First 2 to 3 sentences of the abstract must inform the readers about why you have undertaken this research and what it is about. I'm giving an example from my own latest research work. So the first sentence of the abstract is, the ultraviolet germicidal radiations have been shown to inactivate all pathogens tested so far, but had limited applications due to their deleterious effects on human skin and eyes. The second sentence I have written is, this necessitated the designing of devices which can safely be used in households. These 2 introductory sentences describe the problem and the aim of the study. I believe such introductory statements can easily draw the attention of the reader. The next session might go on to describe what information is lacking in the field or what the previous researchers have done to try to address this problem. Such statements can lead very naturally into a statement of how research addresses the issue in a unique way. You may prefer to use introductory phrases such as, here we aimed to dash, or here we demonstrate that, to indicate to the reader that you are stating the aim of your work. Now let's check which information from methods section should be included. The methods subsection of the abstract should summarize the basic design of the study and should briefly state the key techniques used in the experiments. Examples could be like, number 1, abstracts in biological or clinical fields should mention the organisms, cell lines, or populations studied. The abstracts in ecology papers should mention the location of the study, and abstracts in clinical trials should mention the sample size, patient groups, dosages, and study duration. I found a meticulously worded one-sentence description of methods subsection of a very well-cited research article, and it goes, 100 consecutive consenting male inpatients in a state of moderately severe uncomplicated alcohol withdrawal at screening were randomized to receive either drug X at the rate of A milligram per day or drug Y B milligram per day, with dosing down titrated to 0 in a fixed dose schedule across 8 treatment days. Coming to the next question, that is, which information from results section should be included in the abstract section? The main reason that people are reading the abstract is to learn about your findings. Therefore, the results subsection should be the longest part of your abstract, and you should try to maximize the amount of details you include here. For example, statements such as significant differences in body weight were observed between the animals in group A and B are not very informative. Instead, consider making more specific statements such as the average body weight loss of the animals in group A was greater than that of the animals in group B, 20.4 plus minus 0.3 gram versus 8.4 plus minus 0.6 gram, p less than 0.01. Here the p-value effectively conveys that the difference was significant, thus word significant is no longer required in the test. The next question is, to which information from the discussion and conclusion section should be included in the abstract? I will recommend that the last couple of sentences should mention the overall conclusions. If you check some good research publication, you will notice that authors use phrases such as, our study revealed that, or overall, we conclude that then they state their main findings very concisely. If you have serendipity and interesting findings, do mention those as well. The last sentence of abstract should preferably state the implications of major findings or describe how your work has added scientific information in the existing knowledge pool to make readers understand the importance of your findings. Just to remind you, please note that many readers have access to abstract only and don't have access to the full manuscript or entire set of data. They take your conclusions at face value. Therefore, it is very important not to overstate the conclusions so as not to mislead your readers. Coming to the last part of the lesson, know what are the common mistakes in writing abstract. The abstract usually carries a strict word count limit. Combining all the most important aspects of your work into a paragraph of 250 words or less is a tough job. If there is need to reduce the word count, what should be avoided? For example, the abstract should not contain number one, citations. Number two, lengthy literature review because readers are more interested in your study results rather than the previous work of other researchers. Number three, routine laboratory procedures which are well established and well known. Number four, statistical methods or softwares used in your study. Number five, undefined abbreviations or acronyms. And number six, results or interpretations that are not discussed in the text. So here are the bonus tips. Number one, once you have completed the abstract, check that all the information agrees with the information in the main body of the research article text. Number two, get it vetted from a colleague working in a separate discipline. Ask your colleague whether the study is clear based solely on the abstract. This will help you to determine which areas of the abstract will require revisions, either to clarify the meaning or to highlight the major findings. Thank you very much. Subscribe this channel and keep watching other videos on technical writing, how to write research article and other chapters.